She texted, "I'm bringing my parents to move in with us. They lost their house. This isn't a discussion." I replied, "Family first." Then I contacted my landlord, broke the lease early, and moved into a studio apartment, alone. When a moving truck arrived at an empty apartment. Original post. I, 31 male, moved out of my own apartment 3 days ago without telling my girlfriend. She found out when the moving truck she'd rented for her parents arrived at an empty unit. And honestly, I feel lighter than I have in 2 years. Let me give you the full context because this didn't happen in a vacuum. I've been with my girlfriend for 2.5 years. We moved in together 18 months ago into a 2-bedroom apartment. The lease is in my name only. She was between jobs when we signed it and didn't qualify. She eventually got work and started contributing to rent, but the arrangement stayed the same. My name, my credit on the line, my responsibility if anything went wrong. Her parents have always been a problem. Not in the normal in-law adjustment way, in the they treat me like staff way. Her dad has never once asked me a question about myself. Not my job, not my interests, not my background. In 2.5 years, her mom talks over me constantly and has made comment about how their daughter could have done better, within earshot multiple times. They've shown up unannounced at our apartment, expecting to be hosted. They've borrowed money from my girlfriend that she took from our shared household fund without telling me. They've criticized everything from the way I load a dishwasher to the car I drive. I've raised these issues with my girlfriend many times. Her response is always some variation of "that's just how they are," or "family is family," or "you're being too sensitive." She's never once stood up for me, never once set a boundary, never once acknowledged that her parents treat me poorly. 3 weeks ago, she went to visit them for a weekend. When she came back, she was weird, quiet, on her phone constantly. I asked if everything was okay. She said fine in that way that means definitely not fine. I let it go because I'd learned that pushing doesn't help. Then, last Tuesday, while I was at work, I got a text. So, I need to tell you something. My parents lost their house. Foreclosure. They have nowhere to go. I'm bringing them to move in with us next Saturday. This isn't a discussion. I read that message probably 15 times. This isn't a discussion. For words that told me everything I needed to know about how she viewed our relationship, our home, and my role in both. I typed back, "family first." Then I sat at my desk for about an hour, thinking. Her parents moving and wasn't just about space or privacy. It was about precedent. She made a unilateral decision about our shared living situation without consulting me, and preemptively shut down any conversation about it. This isn't a discussion. That meant my opinion didn't matter. My comfort didn't matter. My home, the one with my name on the lease, didn't matter. I thought about all the times I'd compromised, all the times I'd swallowed my frustration about her parents, all the times I'd let things slide to keep the peace. And I realized something. Keeping the peace was killing me. I've been slowly disappearing into a relationship where I had all the responsibility and none of the agency. So I made a decision. I called my landlord during my lunch break. Explained I needed to break the lease early. There was a penalty, $2,400, basically 2 months' rent, but he agreed to let me out if I paid it and was gone within a week. I agreed. Wednesday, I started quietly packing. She was at work during the day. I took Thursday and Friday off, claiming I had a personal matter to handle. She didn't ask what it was. I packed everything that was mine, furniture I'd bought before we met, electronics, clothes, books. I left anything we'd bought together, which honestly wasn't much since I'd funded most of our household purchases. I found a studio apartment about 20 minutes away. First and last month's rent, security deposit. Altogether about $4,200 to move in. I signed the lease Thursday afternoon. By Friday evening, I was essentially ready to go. She worked a late shift that night and didn't get home until after midnight. I pretended everything was normal. We watched TV. Went to bed. I didn't sleep much. Saturday morning, I told her I was going to help a coworker with something and would be back later. She barely looked up from her phone, probably coordinating logistics with her parents. I drove to the apartment, met the movers I'd hired, and supervised as they loaded everything into a truck. By 2 p.m., I was unpacked in my new studio. By 3 p.m., I'd texted my landlord confirmation that I'd vacated and left my keys with the building manager. Then I blocked my girlfriend's number and sat in my new, quiet, empty apartment, waiting. I found out what happened next through my buddy, who's still friends with her on social media. Apparently, the moving truck her parents had rented arrived at our old apartment around 5 p.m. They'd driven 4 hours with all their belongings, expecting to move into what they thought was their daughter's place. They found an empty apartment. My stuff was gone. Her stuff was there, but mine, the couch, the TV, the bed frame, the kitchen table, the dishes that were actually mine, all gone. My girlfriend tried calling me. Blocked. Tried texting. Blocked. Tried my work number. She knew the main line. I'd already told reception to say I was unavailable. She drove to my parents' house. My parents, who I'd briefed on the situation, told her I didn't want to contact her and to please leave. She didn't leave quietly. Apparently, there was yelling. My mom called me after to say that girl has issues. That was 3 days ago. I've since heard through various channels that she's scrambling. Her parents can't afford a hotel for more than a few days. She can't afford the apartment rent alone. The lease renewal was supposed to happen next month, and the landlord apparently told her he won't transfer it to her name because her credit and income don't qualify. She's been posting vague stuff on social media about people who abandon you when you need them most and showing true colors. A few mutual friends have reached out asking what happened. I've told them the truth. She unilaterally decided to move her parents into my apartment without discussing it with me. So I removed myself from the situation. Some people get it. Some people think I was harsh. I don't really care either way. I'm sitting in my studio apartment right now. It's small. It's quiet. It's entirely mine. The lease is only my name on it. The furniture is only what I can afford. There's no one here who treats me like I'm invisible or tells me my opinions don't matter. I'll update if anything else develops. For now, I'm just breathing. Update 1, 4 days later. Things have escalated significantly, and I want to document everything because this situation has gotten more complicated than I expected. First, some clarification based on comments on my original post. Yes, I understand moving out without warning was dramatic. Yes, I could have had a conversation first. But here's the thing. She explicitly told me it wasn't a discussion. When someone closes the door on dialogue before it even starts, they don't get to complain about not being consulted on the response. Now for what's happened since. The day after I posted, my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, we never officially broke up, but I think the moving out implied it, somehow got my new address. I still don't know how. Maybe through a mutual friend, maybe through some creative Googling. Either way, she showed up at my studio unannounced. I saw her through the peephole. Didn't open the door. Her through the door. I know you're in there. Your car is in the lot. We need to talk. Me, we really don't. Her, you can't just leave like that. You left me with nothing. Me, I left you with everything that was yours. I took what was mine. Her, the apartment was OURS. Me, the lease was mine. My name, my credit, my responsibility. You made a decision about that space without me. I made one too. Her, my parents lost their home. What was I supposed to do? Me, I don't know. Discuss it with me like a partner? Give me more than 4 days' notice? Not tell me it wasn't a discussion? Her, you're punishing my parents because you don't like them. Me, I'm removing myself from a situation where I have no say. That's not punishment. That's self-preservation. There was a long pause. Then, her, if you don't come back, we're done. I mean it. Me, I think we already are. She left after that. Slammed the hallway door hard enough that my neighbor poked his head out to see what was happening. That was Sunday. Monday brought a new player, her mother. Her mom showed up at my job, at my actual workplace. Walked in a lobby, told reception she was my mother-in-law, we were never married, and demanded to see me. Our receptionist called me, very confused. I told her to tell the woman I was in meetings all day. Her mom apparently caused enough of a scene in the lobby that building security had to ask her to leave. She was yelling about abandonment and cowardice and how I'd ruined her family. My manager asked me about it later. I gave him a brief summary, and he said, "Sounds like you dodged a bullet," and left it at that. But it didn't stop there. Tuesday, I got a letter. Not an email, an actual paper letter, hand-delivered to my studio's mailbox. It was from her dad. The letter was 3 pages long, handwritten. The gist: I had betrayed their daughter. I had abandoned her in her time of need. I was less than a man for not supporting my partner's family. They had invested in our relationship and expected basic human decency in return. The invested in our relationship part made me laugh out loud. This is the man who's never asked me a single question about myself in 2.5 years. What exactly did he invest? Criticism? Condescension? The letter ended with a demand. I should pay for 1 month of hotel expenses for them until they get back on their feet. He cited a specific amount, $2,800 for a month at an extended stay place. I did not respond to the letter. Wednesday, things got weird. Her brother, who I'd met maybe 3 times and never had a real conversation with, messaged me on LinkedIn of all places. Professional network. LinkedIn. Her brother. Hey, my sister says you moved out. I heard what happened. Just wanted to reach out and say you might want to reconsider. Family is important, and my parents are good people who just hit a rough patch. I think if you gave it another chance, things could work out. Me, your family is important to you. That's great. But after 2.5 years of being treated like furniture, I'm choosing to prioritize myself. Her brother, that's pretty selfish. Me, maybe. But so is telling your partner that major life decisions aren't a discussion. He didn't respond after that. Thursday, the landlord called me. This is where it gets interesting. My old landlord from the apartment I'd just vacated had some news. My ex-girlfriend had tried to convince him to let her stay in the apartment by herself. She offered to have her parents co-sign. He ran their credit. Her parents, the ones who lost their house to foreclosure, have a credit score in the low 500s. They owe back taxes. They have multiple collections accounts. The foreclosure was apparently the result of years of financial mismanagement, not a sudden tragedy. The landlord declined to extend the lease. He gave her 30 days from when I vacated to find alternative arrangements. She has until the end of next week. She's apparently panicking. Her income alone can't qualify for anything in the area. Her parents can't help because they're the ones who need help. The plan was clearly to use my apartment, my name, my credit, my stability, to house her entire family indefinitely. I didn't know about her parents' financial situation until the landlord told me. My ex had always implied they were going through a rough patch and just needed a little help. Turns out the rough patch has been going on for years, and the help they need is substantial. More updates coming as this unfolds. Update 2. 8 days later. This is probably my second to last update because the situation is stabilizing, but some significant things have happened that I want to share. After my last update, my ex tried one more direct approach. She emailed me. I'd blocked her on everything else, but I'd forgotten about my personal email, which she had from when we'd share random articles and stuff. The email was long. I'll summarize the key points. She understood why I was upset but thought I overreacted. She was willing to work things out if I came back and helped her parents get settled. She pointed out that I'd invested 2.5 years in the relationship, and it would be wasteful to throw that away. She said her parents were sorry if they ever made me feel unwelcome. Note, not that they were sorry for their behavior, but sorry if I felt bad. She concluded by saying that if I didn't respond within 48 hours, she would have to accept that it was over and move on with her life. I did not respond. The 48 hours passed. I expected that to be the end of it. It was not. The next day, her mom posted something on Facebook. I don't follow her, but a mutual friend screenshot it and sent it to me. The post was a long, dramatic narrative about how their family was going through the hardest time and how people they trusted had abandoned them. It mentioned, without naming me directly, that their daughter's partner had walked out without warning and left them all homeless. It asked for prayers and support. The comments were what you'd expect. Her extended family expressing outrage. Friends offering sympathy. A few people saying they'd pray for strength. What none of them knew, what the post conveniently omitted, was that this partner had never agreed to house anyone. That the apartment was in my name only. That I'd been told my opinion didn't matter. That I'd been treated like an unwelcome guest in my own relationship for years. I debated whether to respond publicly. Decided against it. The people who know me know the truth. The people who believe her mom's version probably weren't going to change their minds anyway. But here's where karma stepped in. Apparently, someone who saw the Facebook post knew more about the family situation than they let on. I heard this through the grapevine from friend of friend, so take it with a grain of salt. But supposedly someone commented something like, maybe if you hadn't refinanced the house 3 times to fund your lifestyle, you wouldn't be in this situation. The comment was deleted almost immediately, but not before people screenshot it. The screenshots started circulating in their extended family group chat. Questions were being asked. Her parents' narrative about being victims of circumstance started to crack. I have no idea who made that comment. But whoever they are, they did what I never would have had the information or courage to do. Meanwhile, the practical fallout continued. My ex officially received notice that she had to vacate the apartment. She apparently tried to negotiate with the landlord one more time, offered to pay 6 months rent up front if he'd let her stay. But she didn't have 6 months rent. She was hoping to get it from me. How'd I know this? Because she had her brother contact me again. Her brother. She's about to be homeless. My parents have nowhere to go. If you fronted her 6 months rent, $7,200, she says she'd pay you back and leave you alone. Me. I already paid $2,400 to break the lease. I'm not giving her more money. Her brother. You're really going to let her end up on the street? Me. She has a job. She has family. She has options. None of those options are me. Her brother. This is cold, man. I expected better from you. Me. And I expected to be treated like a human being by people who were supposed to become my family. I guess we're both disappointed. He blocked me after that. Fine by me. The end of the 30-day notice arrived 3 days ago. I know what happened because my old neighbor, a cool older guy who I'd become friendly with, texted me. My ex moved out. Her parents' belongings, which had been sitting in a storage unit since the failed move-in day, were loaded into a truck along with her stuff. They drove everything to her brother's house, about 2 hours away. The brother has a 3-bedroom with his wife and 2 kids. They're now apparently housing 3 additional adults in a space that was already full. For what I hear, it's not going well. The brother's wife is not thrilled about the situation. There have been arguments. Her parents are apparently already making demands about how the household should be run, despite being guests. It's not my problem anymore, but there's a certain poetry to it. One more update coming to wrap everything up. Update 3. Final, 12 days later. Final update. The dust has settled, and I want to close this chapter properly. Here's where things stand. My ex is still living with her brother. From what I've heard through mutual friends, it's a tense situation. Her parents have apparently taken over the guest room, and the living room couch situation is causing friction. Her brother's wife has made it clear that this is temporary. They've been given a 3-month deadline to find their own place. My ex still has her job, which is good. She's apparently been looking at apartment listings, but the combination of her income and credit makes qualifying difficult. She might need a co-signer, and her parents obviously can't help. Her brother is apparently unwilling to co-sign because he doesn't want to be financially tied to the situation if things go wrong. The irony, of course, is that she had a co-signer before. Me. My name on a lease she took for granted. My stability that she assumed would always be there to catch her. Her parents' situation is messy, eh? They've apparently tried to apply for housing assistance and senior living options, but waiting lists are long and their financial history complicates things. They're existing on Social Security and whatever odd jobs her dad can pick up. It's not a great situation for anyone involved. I don't take pleasure in their struggles. Really, I'm not vindictive, but I also don't feel responsible for them. They spent 2.5 years treating me like I was beneath notice. They assumed they could move into my home without my consent. They demanded money from me when things fell apart. At some point, the consequences of how you treat people catch up to you. A few things that happened in the past couple weeks. First, I got a final message from my ex. She found a way around my blocks by creating a new email address. I just want you to know that I understand now why you left. I should have talked to you first. I should have made a discussion. I was panicking about my parents, and I didn't handle it well. I'm not asking you to come back. I just wanted to say I'm sorry it ended this way. I read it 3 times. It wasn't quite an apology for how I'd been treated for 2.5 years. It was an acknowledgement that her parents' behavior was part of the problem. but it was something. More self-awareness than I'd seen from her before. I didn't respond. There's nothing to say, but I didn't delete it either. Maybe someday it'll feel like closure. Second, my old landlord reached out to let me know the apartment had been re-rented. New tenants moving in next month. The chapter is officially closed on that address. Third, I ran into a mutual friend at a coffee shop. We talked for a while. She told me what people were saying about the situation. Some people think I was cruel, that I should have worked with my ex to find a solution, that abandoning her when her family was in crisis was cold. Other people think I was justified, that being told something isn't a discussion was the final straw in a pattern of being dismissed. That protecting myself wasn't cruel, it was necessary. The mutual friend said she was somewhere in the middle. She understood why I left, but wished I'd given more warning. I told her I understood that perspective, but when someone removes your voice from a decision, they forfeit the right to demand you use your voice before acting. She nodded. We changed the subject. A few final thoughts before I wrap this up. 1. Family first cuts both ways. My ex used that phrase to justify moving her parents in without my consent. I used it to justify leaving because I'm part of family too. My own family. The people who actually treat me with respect. At some point, you have to decide which family you're prioritizing, and choosing a family that includes you isn't selfish. It's survival. 2. The lease being in my name only saved me. If we'd been on the lease together, this would have been messy, eh? I would have been trapped in a situation where I had responsibility, but no control. The fact that I could legally walk away was the only power I had, and I used it. 3. This isn't a discussion, is relationship-ending language. If your partner says that about a major decision, they're telling you that your input doesn't matter. Maybe they don't mean it that severely. Maybe it's just stress talking. But words mean things, and when someone closes the door on conversation, you have to decide whether you want to live in a house with locked doors. 4. Consequences aren't revenge. I didn't do anything to hurt my ex or her parents. I didn't sabotage them. I didn't badmouth them publicly. I simply removed myself from a situation where I was being used without being valued. The consequences they're facing are the result of their own choices. The parents' financial mismanagement, my ex's assumption that I'd always be there to fall back on. I just stopped being the safety net. 5. Starting over is expensive, but worth it. Between the lease-breaking fee, the new apartment deposits, and the movers, I spent close to $7,000 to get out of that situation. That's a lot of money, but it's also the cost of peace, of autonomy, of living in a space that's entirely mine, or no. One can tell me that my opinion on how it's used isn't a discussion. Worth every penny. My studio apartment is starting to feel like home. I bought a small couch that fits the space. Found a coffee table at a thrift store that I actually like better than the one I left behind. The kitchen is tiny, but it's mine. The bedroom is basically just a bed and a dresser, but I sleep better there than I have in months. I'm not dating. Not ready. The trust thing is going to take time. But I'm also not lonely. I have friends who've checked in. Family who support me. Work that keeps me busy. A life that's quieter and smaller, but entirely my own. My ex's parents are probably still complaining about me in her brother's living room. Her mom is probably still telling anyone who'll listen about the man who abandoned her daughter. Her dad probably still thinks I'm less than a man for not housing his family on demand. They can think whatever they want. I'm not in their story anymore. I'm in my own story now. And in my story, I have a voice. My opinions matter. Major decisions get discussed. That's all I ever wanted. Thanks for following along. It helped to write this out. Sometimes you need strangers on the internet to confirm that protecting yourself from people who don't value you isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Go and order some takeout and enjoy my quiet evening. Peace.